Howdy ho, Lions fans. Welcome to the Detroit Lions podcast, episode 322. This is the official Detroit Lions podcast for Reddit. I am your dashing host, Chris, and with me is my very, very, very good friend, Case. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. I'm just putting the finishing touches on my bunker.
Oh, okay. I can't wait for this one. All right, today's show. We're going to say hello to Brad Holmes. We're going to say hello, Dan Campbell. We're going to say, over here, Aaron Glenn. How you doing, James Urban? We're going to clarify the organizational structure of this team like you haven't heard anywhere else, because we have expertise that obviously nowhere else has. And I think it's going to make a whole lot more sense for you guys as to how they're doing it, why they're doing it, and have a really, really, really good comparison as to where this is coming from and how they're doing it. We got a really, really good show lined up. It's great, as a matter of fact. Case, are you ready to go, brother?
Yeah, I think the world's going to be fine. I just always like the idea of having a bunker.
Let's kick this off and break it down.
All right. A bunker might be fun. At least I just wanted to have one as a kid, maybe hide and seek kind of thing.
Sure.
Right? Yeah, it's kind of a fun thing. All right, let's get right into it. We're going to do this. Hello, everybody live on the stream, everybody on the podcast. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. As we go a little later, I see Aaron over in the UK. Thanks for joining us, man. This is late for you. Appreciate you making time for us. All right, we will start out with our man, Brad Holmes. I don't know if you've heard the name. He's a guy that we hired as a general manager of the Detroit Lions. Has a little bit of a experience with the Rams, starting in 2003, various front office positions. In 2013, he got to be the king of college scouting over there. Hasn't had a first-round pick in 4 years. Tell me, Case, why this was an absolutely horrible hire.
He has no experience being a GM. No, I'm just kidding.
Spoiled again.
Why
couldn't they figure this out?
I'm just kidding. No, I mean, like any first-time GM, first-time head coach, whether or not it's a good hire is damn near impossible to tell right now. I listened to his presser. He said mostly things that I like to hear, but just saying the things I like to hear, I liked most of what I heard from Bob Quinn, and obviously that era didn't go so well. I liked what I remember from what I heard from when Mayhew got the promotion, and I think everybody was on board for a minute, So it's not like I can sit here and say I think it's a good or bad hire because I haven't seen him do anything.
Yeah,
I haven't even seen him hire any coaches because he wasn't responsible for that final decision, I don't think.
Sure. Well, he was involved, I'm sure.
Sure.
And during and they even alluded to this during the hiring process. They talked about people that they would want to work with and people that they would choose. So they did have him weigh in on it, and they said that the next man we'll talk about was part of that list of people that he had on his list. So I feel pretty good about this Holmes pick. The one thing that I don't want to say it worries me, but if you remember when we hired Bob Quinn was the scouting master. He had done all the scouting for the New England Patriots, and he was the one that found them the talent. He was like single-handedly responsible for 6th round Tom Brady. I mean, maybe we're stretching there, but you get the point. Everyone talked about how much of an excellent scout he was, and God, if that wasn't the worst thing he did, his worst level of performance in his entire time in the organization, it was an embarrassment, actually, more than anything else.
For sure, and that is one of the differences that you can see with Holmes is there actually is a pretty solid draft history, whereas Quinn didn't necessarily actually have while he may have been the mastermind behind the Patriots drafting, it wasn't like the Patriots drafting was their strong suit.
He may have said it was him in the interview.
Right. Whereas at least Holmes, and again, you don't even know, it's impossible to tell at this moment in time how much influence he had on the way the Rams have drafted, but they picked up quite a few impressive players, especially since 2013, his time as the coach or professional college scouting guy. So the like he was the like scouting guy in charge of scouting. So they've done a bang up job. I mean, it maybe not best in the league, but it certainly is better than consistency than what we've had, despite the fact that they haven't had a first round pick in the last 4 or 5 years here.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're able to continually fill your roster with young players, that's such a huge benefit for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Not that that's going to blow anyone's mind, me saying that, but it is something that we have struggled with. You know, every year it's like we get 1 or 2 players who might work out, but we need more than 1 or 2 players who might work out if we're not going to be able to spend big money in free agency. And that, I think, actually, that'll be the most interesting challenge Holmes faces this year, is his first time through free agency.
I think actually the most difficulty he's going to have, and thank you, Floundericious. We'll get to you in 1 second. Thank you so much for that super chat. That was awesome of you. The biggest problem I think he's going to have is the lack of capital with which to work. I think having 5 picks only, having, you know, we're a decent spot cap wise, right? But he's only got 5 draft picks, so wheel and dealing is going to be a little bit difficult. And then the whole question around Matthew Stafford, what to do, what not to do. Should you get a quarterback right now? I don't think you're going to get the quarterback that is better than Matthew Stafford now or in 3 years, at number 7 overall this year. You don't have the picks to trade up. What do you do? We'll talk about that a lot. There's a lot of action on that. Listening to Holmes, I don't know that Matthew Stafford is leaving this team, to be honest with you. I know he's evaluating everybody.
I think it's up in the air.
I know there's a lot of talk with Phil Rivers doing the retirement dance so that he can go spend some time making babies, because he just doesn't do that enough. I think that whole thing going on is there's a lot of talk, but look, if somebody offers you 50 times, I'm stealing this from the chat, this might have even been Flounder. If someone offers you 50 times the value of your house, no matter how much you love that house, you're probably going to sell it. And you're going to go find yourself another one that's just like it, or build one, or whatever else. There's a price for everything. I just don't think that Brad Holmes is in a position to sell on Matthew Stafford right now. I just don't. And I think there's a lot of things going on with building this team. You need a defense. You have a lot of needs and very little capital to get it. The other side of it is Matthew Stafford with single-handedly basically won you 5 games this year with the worst defense in the history of the NFL. During this first part of the retool, I'd keep him on the team. I'd definitely keep him around for another year. And next year, you have a whole bunch more picks. You'll have time to have worked through your the wheels and deals you need to get the capital to get your quarterback. That's where my head's at.
He's not going to cost you a ton of money in dead cap space after this year.
Right. So that's where we're at. So Brad Holmes has a lot to do, a lot to work with, a lot to work on. Let me hit Flounder really quick. A little bit of romantics here. Thanks for whispering in my ear, telling me all the things I want to hear.
Sorry about my microphone issues, guys.
It's true.
That's fixed. So
it's what I like about you. Yeah, that was my fault, Case. It was a change in. There's 42 layers of settings, and when you change one, sometimes 4 layers deeper, it changes something else on you. So thank you to everyone in the chat. All right. Let's go on. We got Brad Holmes. We've covered him a little bit. I want to talk about Dan Campbell here a little bit. Unless you had more about Brad that you wanted to cover.
I have more on Brad.
All right, go for it. I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you short.
Specifically, we are looking at his history because that's all we have of the drafts of the Los Angeles Rams and the previous iteration of the Rams. Back to 2013 is where I really started looking at it, because that's when he became the director of pro scouting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's his title. I can't remember for sure.
College scouting director.
So I mean, you're looking at every year since then, and while not every year was like a home run year, he did get, even in 2013, you have TJ McDonald, who was a solid starter for a while, Alec Ogletree, who was a middling starter, but and Tavon Austin, who stuck around the league for quite a while, is still in the league, even if none of those were bang-up jobs. But I think from there on, it gets a little bit better. You have Greg Robinson and Aaron Donald, and obviously we all know Aaron Donald, and I think that's maybe a catharsis for some Lions fans. Obviously, it doesn't fix the fact that we didn't get Aaron Donald and we got Eric Ebron instead. But bringing in the guy who likely had a big hand in, the evaluation of Aaron Donald certainly, hopefully, builds some optimism in the fan base in the lead up to a draft where, like you said, we don't have a ton of capital there, so we're going to have to try to bang out some. Every pick is going to be important.
Yeah.
In that draft. Greg Robinson, who obviously we know was not good, but has later in his career at least been serviceable here and there. There's other guys. There's Marquise Alexander and stuff. You obviously have Todd Gurley in 2015, which injury aside, he's still been one of the better running backs since he came in. Rob Havestein has been a crucial player for them. You've got Tyler Higbee and Pharoh Cooper in 2016, both fourth-round picks, and that's what you like to see. You like to see those fourth-round picks that are,
successful,
blowing people away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Pharoh Cooper hasn't exactly been a star wide receiver, but he's one of the best return men in the league. Then 2017, you've Gerald Everett, the tight end, in the second round, and he's been solid. You have Cooper Kupp in the third round, and he's been great. John Johnson in the third round, also the safety for them, who has been fantastic. Great. He's a big part of why that defense works so well. And then, evaluating guys from 2018 on gets a little more difficult, but I think every single player that they have drafted in the last 3 years is still in the league in some capacity or another. Many guys starting. No, I shouldn't say many. Several of those guys are starters for whatever team they're on, many of whom are still in the Rams. It's been a solid 3 years, even if they don't have the all pro type players in the last 3 years. Again, I would mention that they have had less than they didn't have a first round pick the last 3 years. They didn't even have a second round pick in 2018. So I would hope that Holmes is a little bit more conservative with trading away first round picks. Can I just really quick, and this is, I think, a point to jump in, and it actually in the chat it's relevant as well. Then you take the best talent available, not just a position of need like the past few years of Quintricia. Brendan says, right.
What I think, and this is again from the Slack chat, I think it's it is the most intelligent Lions chat on the internet. Patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast. I'll tell you what, straight up, they need to quit dropping talent and creating a hole they need to fill. They have to quit creating positions of need that, while you save $1 million, have a player at 3/4 the value of the guy you got rid of. Bob Quinn was the master of deconstructing the team, getting themselves slightly worse at every single position, and doing that through his own idiotic moves of creating gaps in talent. Brad Holmes does not appear to be a guy that's going to do that. We saw a lot of great players leave, whether on their own volition or the teams, and create holes that then had to be filled. When you feel like, oh my God, we got a roster that's kind of close, it's like, no, let's create 4 more holes. That was the whole Quinn MO, and that's one of the key reasons why this team could never get ahead, because we continued to get worse and worse and worse at position after position. It was just an absurd strategy. And I'm sorry to interrupt, Case, but that's
okay. I agree with you for the most part. He's going to have some very difficult decisions to make regarding free agency this year, with Galladay and Jones particularly. And I think that I would be concerned that he would overpay Kenny Galladay just to keep the fans happy. That would concern me.
Can't disagree. That would be highly concerning.
But
I want Allen Robinson.
Well, so that's the tough part. Like you say, I don't want to see the wide receiving core completely go to shit because we lose everybody and aren't able to refill it. But would I rather pay a little bit more for Allen Robinson than Kenny Galladay? Yeah, I would.
Just from straight from a separation point, right? Just from separation alone, right?
Yeah. Carter, my dad painted that in college many years ago.
Yeah, very nice. Very
Thanks
nice.
for noticing.
Case said he was going to do a little bit of hide and seek and Easter eggy stuff in the background, so I recommend watching every show where you have Case on board.
I didn't actually do anything like that this week.
Didn't you hang that painting? Wasn't that bear before?
Well, that's been the last few shows behind me. I'm just trying to spruce up the place.
Well,
there's also a didgeridoo. You can only see the top of it next to my dresser over.
Thanks, Carter.
There.
Now I feel like a jerk because I didn't even recognize it. Carter's all in. Okay. All right. Anything else on Brad? Did you have that you wanted to kick out?
I
You
think
feel
that's
good.
pretty much it.
All right.
Like I say, I will, as I always do, will reserve judgment until I see what he actually does.
Sure. And I'm just gonna say really quick again. I'm really stoked about what I have here at the end about this org structure, you guys. I think I've got something that I know I've got something that isn't on Twitter and isn't anywhere else, and it's going to explain Rod Wood and everything else, and I think it's going to make a lot of sense for you all as to how it fits together. This is something that you're not getting from other people because they don't have this kind of experience. I'm just telling you straight up. That's what it is, but I think it makes great sense. And then the tie back that I'm going to do with this is you guys are just going to boom. It came to me about 6 p.m. So I'm still a little formulating, still excited to make the whole thing. All right, let's get into Dan Campbell. Have you heard of his name, Dan Campbell? Former tight end.
I've heard of him.
Not only a tight end, but he's already been a head coach for a 7-5 record in Miami, who went 0-4. Not bad. Had he taken over the Lions this year,
that was a terrible team.
Yeah, and gone 7-5, we would have called him absolute Superman, right? If Bevel had done that, and I know it's the numbers don't add up with where we fired Patricia and Quinn, but had we gone 7-5 at the end, it would have been absolutely amazing. So yeah, no, that's pretty good. He's been a head coach. He's had the players, they lived and died for him. He was assistant head coach and tight ends coach for the Saints since 2016. Hello, Dan Campbell. Welcome to the Detroit Lions. Case, tell me why you're excited.
Yeah. How anticlimactic is it that I'm just going to say the same thing? I have no idea what to expect out of him. He's a first time. I mean, he's not a first time head coach. But this is his first time, like, truly holding the reins of an organization the way he's going to. And I think a lot of it, when you get a situation like that, a lot of it always depends on who they're able to fill in around them. And I know that a lot of people are excited about the possibility of Glenn coming with him from the Saints. We would like to see that. And if his presence in Detroit is what brought us Glenn, that would be a good thing. That would be a very good thing. I think we'd all that would give us lots of room for optimism. If not, they're going to have to get creative with who they want to bring in. Maybe Wade Phillips, like you want.
Yeah. Wade! I really do. Not, but you're going to see me. I'm going to go against my own narrative. I'm going to do this later, but let's hit Loretto really quick. Chris, you're more wrong than right about the creating holes. If you've got a coach who doesn't know how to develop a talent, it's always a hole. It's always a hole. Hey, why not both, Loretto? Why not both?
Well, I agree with him in a large part. I think that both of our last coaching staffs were not great at developing talent. I didn't think Caldwell was very good at developing talent at all, or the rest of his staff underneath him, especially on offense. Other than
so you downgraded a position, expecting your coach to do his job, and your coach doesn't do his job. So you got the double whammy of what we saw here last week, which is the way he wants it. All right. We also got Cliff in the super chat, and thank you again, Loretto, for the super chat. Appreciate it. Cliff, Danimal said his first priority is bringing back the black jerseys. Now, this is obviously key to performance.
Is there a more contentious issue in Lions family?
This is key for performance, but is it the right kind of key for the right kind of performance?
A lot of people have PTSD about the whole black jersey thing, and I think they looked okay.
I was okay. I liked the sense. I like black as a color. I like what the color black kind of. It's a little bit more foreboding,
sleek, and
Then like I love the blue. It's great. The gray uniforms I was never a big fan of. Right, the all gray throw color rush, whatever they had. I was
I like them, but I know I'm in the minority on that. To be honest,
I think I know.
They're fun.
It's fine. But the black, I just like how it's imposing. And colors matter, right? I mean, I remember they used to paint locker rooms pink when they realized that people were like physically less strong when they saw the color pink around them than when they saw the colors. It was really they physically performed at a lower level, so they started doing that in locker rooms, and they made rules around it and everything else. Crazy times. So. Yeah, no, I'm down with the black. I'm also, look, if you want to think about it from the perspective of, it's jinxed or whatever else, right, and it's bad for the team, maybe you should just not be a Lions fan, because if you haven't noticed, they haven't won in a long time, and they've won all different colors of uniforms. So there you go. That's that on the uni. So I'm okay with that. All right, Dan Campbell, what does he bring? Well, he brings a leadership style. Right, he's authentic, and I think that's a key word here. That's a real shift. We talk about the pendulum shift between players from one side to the other. Authenticism is so important. You didn't have that from Matt Patricia. He tried to be what he thought a good coach was. He tried to drive players in a way he thought was good, but it wasn't authentic. People saw through him, and it was in a way very embarrassing. Where with Dan is Dan. Right, and he reminds me a bit of Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel, and I know they can't run the drill anymore, but Mike Vrabel says run the Oklahoma drill. He's going to be the first guy on the field running the Oklahoma drill against one of his players. He isn't going to ask people to do what he doesn't do. Dan Campbell's very much the same way. He's Danimal, as we know. He's very, very highly motivated. He's very, very high energy. He's quite fit, I'll say. My wife is massively in love with the pick, much like the black jerseys idea. This is different. This is more on the external kind of features. But yeah, Dan looks like he's got the right stuff. This is a guy that you can talk about Vrabel. I think you can probably make some comparisons along with Sean McVay as well. He's a guy that knows how to drive players and to push them when they need to be pushed, and when to give them a hug when they need a hug.
Right. And you mentioned the pendulum thing, and I was going to bring that up too, because we've talked about it many times before about how when you have a coach of a certain style, be they, the hard line of Patricia, it's normal for a organization to swing the other way. That doesn't in and of itself mean that that's a good thing. Because as we've seen through Lions history, we've had a lot of these pendulum swings, and the concern will the cerebral element of coaching be his strong suit? And again, I am not trying to be pessimistic about it. We just don't know yet, because we've seen so little of him in that role. The decision making on the field type stuff. That'll be what we're watching for, week one. That'll be what we're watching for season one from Dan Campbell, is how effective is he on the field.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. More to be seen, and the Danimal press conference will be tomorrow at 11 a.m., I believe. Now, I'll tell you, we will have live coverage. It's not going to be right away. Okay, it's not going to be at 12 o'clock. We're going to do it. It's more likely around 4-ish in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon Eastern. We'll have coverage of the Danimal press conference and any other announcements that may be happening. So keep your ears peeled for those. And then I also want to talk about something that's changed before we get into some of these other guys. The combine for the NFL is not happening this year. And you talk about a difficult time for a head coach and a GM to evaluate talent. Do it a year without the NFL Combine. Okay, they're going to have to go to pro days like crazy to see these players, and they're going to have to focus on the players that pro days that they attend is going to mean so much more this year. There's not going to, and the invites to come to Allen Park, I don't know if they're going to do that this year. That's going to mean a lot more. There's a lot less smoke screens in how this is going to be happening this year. But I'm going to tell you something that you guys should really, really, really pay attention to. Senior Bowl. It's still on. They're still playing a game. They're still doing practice. And we're probably the only people that are going to be right in there covering it. Credentialed media for the Senior Bowl. Guys like, Nico. What's his last name? Help me. I got it right here. Michigan. Sorry. Nico Collins. Thank you very much. Nico Collins, University of Michigan wide receiver, big frame fella, right? Physical. Good hands, 6'4", 222, nice size. But he's a guy that's not projected to go too high because he opted out with COVID this year. Guess what? He's going to be there at the Senior Bowl. He's going to be performing. He could definitely go from a day 3 draft pick to a day 2, maybe even better, depending on his performance here at the Senior Bowl. This is going to be interesting stuff to see. And we will have interviews of players. Nico is one of the ones we submitted for on our list throughout the week. We've got a whole week of Senior Bowl coverage, guys, and it's more important than it's ever been with the state of the combine now. So we'll let you know what's going on. We'll have live streams. It will be Sandman. It will be Risden. It'll be myself, and we're going to squeeze Case in wherever we can as well to make that happen. His work schedule is a little wonky, though, and it kind of has him in a little bit of as if his jockey were a bit tight. So there you go.
I think Nico will be an interesting guy for sure, just because I think there's a high probability that the Lions end up going after a wide receiver in the first round this year.
Yep.
But then I think, they absolutely have to switch the focus to the defense for pretty much the rest of the draft. So
I'm with you.
Nico is available in the 3rd round, if he has a solid showing, or if he's even available in the 4th round, that could very well be a pick that has influence in the future. So
here's where Nico makes a lot of influence for the Lions, and his, let's talk about availability is important this year. He's working out in Pensacola, so he's not up in Ann Arbor, real super easy to get at, right? Like some of the guys that were maybe local in Ann Arbor, still in school and whatever else. But definitely want to watch. One of the things to think about. And I was 100% with you, Case, before we hired Holmes. 1st round wide receiver, and then just bury 4 picks into the defense, right? Just go blank deep into the defense. And the idea of Holmes being kind of a wheeler and dealer, maybe finding somebody else who wants that 7th pick, and getting ourselves some later picks. Yeah, that's where you start to
opposed to that at all.
That's where you start to say, hey, maybe we're going to find a Nico Collins there. I'm not super excited about how I see the draft falling right now. And again, it's early, guys, so let's not get too caught up in it. But about what's available on defense right there.
For us. That is yearly for the Lions. We just always end up at the worst cusp. Where we can't quite get the blue chip player we want.
Right.
So we have to settle for something else because we aren't able to trade back.
Yep. But if you think about this, let's just Devonta Smith is small, but he's a name that everyone loves, Devonta Smith. Think about picking up Allen Robinson and Devonta Smith in this draft. What that does, all of a sudden, Matthew Stafford, who won you all those games with half a Galladay and the corpse of Marvin Jones, who's I give him a hard time. I give him a hard time. I love him.
Yards.
Almost, I know. Our tight end almost had as many yards. No, I love him. I love Marvin Jones. I love Marvin Jones. But you put Allen Robinson out there and like a Devonta Smith, holy cow. All of a sudden, you've just lit the world on fire with his offense. DeAndre Swift, the whole thing. Real potential with just a couple of moves, and then you can really hit the defense. This is what I said in my vlog last week, that we may not be as far away as so many people think we are with this team. And that's why the retool versus rebuild that we're hearing from Mr. Holmes is such a possible starter here. Let me hit Loretto really quick, if you don't mind, Case. Okay. Loretto, thank you again for the super chat. Saints think they're a quarterback away now and have picks and talent they can give away. The only way you get great capital for Stafford is if a team only needs a veteran quarterback to win a Super Bowl. And that's where and again, thanks, Loretto. That's where a Indianapolis Colts think they are, probably. A couple other teams think they are. The Saints are in a real big problem. They're like $35 million over in the cap, right? They've got a whole implosion waiting.
I don't think they can afford Stafford. They also, I do think they'll. What's his name? Their backup quarterback who does everything. I will not be surprised if they run offense primarily through him next year. What's his name? What's the dude's name? He does everything for him.
Wait,
takes snaps at QB.
Oh, Taysom Hill.
Yeah, that's the one. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I got you, bro. I got you. All right, so there you go. Okay, again, and I don't want to hit. I'm just really stoked about what we got coming up here about this organizational and Rod Wood and all this. I think people are all wrong. I think you guys are some of the smartest listeners on the internet. I know that, but there's so many people on Twitter that are just so wrong, so wrong. All right, let's talk about really quick Aaron Glenn former cornerback in the NFL, ended his career with the Saints after 2 games. He had an ankle injury that ended the season for him, and he wound up on IR. Coached around, wound up being the secondary coach for the Saints since 2016. He's there now with Danimal. Dan is really high on this guy. I mean, he came in ready to go. What's the downside? Well, if you think about it, you got yourself some Holmes, you got yourself some Dan Campbell, and you got yourself some Aaron Glenn. There's not a whole lot of experience there. So you start thinking about what does this mean? What could this be? Where are you on Aaron Glenn, Case? How do you feel?
Well, I mean, he was a head coaching candidate for New York this year. They went with Salah, but I mean, if you get somebody who's on people's list as a potential head coach to come in as a coordinator, that at least looks good. I don't know enough about his schemes, his stuff. Again, the whole theme around this offseason, around this coaching staff and front office so far is new and mystery and not really knowing what to predict, to be honest. So it's really difficult to guess for sure, but he certainly has a solid track record with what the Saints secondary has been doing under him the last 4 years. So there's no reason not to like that idea. He's certainly one of the guys with hype around him. And would I rather have a guy with hype around him than a guy that nobody likes? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, and we did hire 2 guys that had all kinds of hype around them in Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia. Mm-hmm. And hype isn't necessarily it. And remember how disappointed everyone was when we had to settle for Caldwell because we couldn't get the Wiz and Hunt?
Yeah.
Caldwell outlasted him, right? So the hype is not necessarily the way you want. The reality is evaluating these guys is probably about as difficult as evaluating a quarterback in the NFL. There's all kinds of things there that you look at, all kinds of tangibles and intangibles, but man, is it difficult to get right. It is so difficult to get right reliably. So we'll see. I like the idea that Dan knows him. Let's see what Joe B has here. Do you think that Dan the Barbarian can bully Stafford into staying? I don't think he has to. I really don't think he has to.
I don't think, a lot of fans have been saying for years and years and years that they thought they saw the writing on the wall that Stafford was going to leave the Lions, and yet he hasn't. They've been wrong every single time. That doesn't mean they can't be right eventually, but I just don't think. I think Stafford likes playing with the Lions. Yeah. I don't think he likes losing with the Lions.
I think he
likes being where he is.
I think Matthew Stafford knows the value of winning in Detroit and what it could bring. That is really the epitome of a career in the NFL right now, to win in Detroit. There's no team. I mean, the Browns this year were great, and the story was awesome, and they didn't quite make it, to the end point. But you talk about a great,
sorry, Race.
You talk about a great story, whether Case likes him or not. It was a great story. To be the one that turned around a team like Detroit, your name will be forever etched in the history books, like turning the Cubs around, right? It's that kind of a thing. Matthew Stafford believes and has believed that it was possible. What you need from Matthew Stafford right now, your 2 choices are: he retires, right, or he buys in and believes.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to trade away. I really, really don't think he's going to get traded away. It is an option. You're going to hear a lot about Denver and Detroit and Denver chasing Matthew Stafford this year. I just don't think. I think it's one of the dumbest things you could do as a new GM is trade away a franchise quarterback for an unknown, because the quarterback is tell me one team that wins without a quarterback in the NFL. Not one. There is not one. And if you don't have a top 10 quarterback, you ain't flying. So where are you going to find a top 10 quarterback to replace Matthew Stafford? You can't do it this year. You can't. I just don't see him letting him go. So that's what leaves me with the 2 choices of Matthew either retires early, and then we have that narrative to deal with, or he's convinced that this is a thing and he wants to play and he figures out how to be here. We'll see. Matthew Stafford's not he's not a half-asser. He's not just gonna show up and not do it. He's either gonna do it or he's not. That's what you're gonna get out of him.
Just one last thought on the topic. Joe also mentioned he thinks that Kelly doesn't want to be in Michigan anymore. And what is the actual evidence that anybody has to prove that to be true? Because I haven't seen it. I've seen her be frustrated with the team. I've seen her be frustrated with the NFL, but I don't think that means that she wants out. I mean, I'm not saying maybe she does, and I don't I don't know. I feel like people are reading too heavily between the lines there and coming up with their own narrative.
I'll tell you, I'm going to tell you something. Having traveled to Michigan and back down now to Florida, where we currently call home, there's one thing that is significantly different, and knowing that how much they travel, right, and how often they see different places. I'm going to hold up a picture I took this Saturday. Okay, and I'll see if it'll work on the camera and get focused in on. That's breakfast in Florida. There's no distancing. There's the staff are wearing masks. You wear masks going up to the tables or whatever. But it felt like 2019 having breakfast there. Autofocus is back. And I'm going to tell you, we don't go out. We stay in our places. But it's been like that since July. And this place should be on fire with the sick if that's going on. I feel like she probably has a sense of isolation, and at that age, I can totally get where you don't want that sense of isolation, especially somebody who's used to being out, being noticed, being around town, parties, all that kind of stuff. Right? There's a lifestyle that's associated, and that doesn't happen there. Okay, I can get the sense that they want to go somewhere where maybe they have more freedom to do that. I'm not here to debate what's right, wrong, or whatever else about the whole virus thing. That's not what we're here to do. I'm just showing you a clear difference between living there and living here and how you get to live. We don't go out much, but we went out for breakfast, and that's what it looked like. And it was like, wow, why aren't we all dead? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That's think probably the one thing
about fans trying to figure out what Kelly's thinking about Michigan itself, or about Detroit, or about the Lions. When we just don't know, and I'm not trying to poo-poo the idea of conversation about it, because that's, I mean, obviously if we didn't just spout off our own theories about things, there wouldn't be a show. There wouldn't be anything to talk about as fans or anything like that. So I'm not trying to. I never quite understood why so many people are so convinced that she wants to drag him out of Michigan. I just haven't seen the evidence of that.
Yep. Give me a name, Lions for Life, in the chat. Give me a name. I just want to trade Stafford. We need to get a dual threat quarterback. Tell me who we get this year.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We want a really quick hit on James Urban. He interviewed today for the offensive coordinator position. Quarterback coach for the Ravens. I know he's a favorite of Chris Robbins because Lamar. I'm teasing Chris. Don't let me beat you up. And then he was a quarterback coach of the Eagles from 2009 to 2010. Wide receiver coach at the Bungles from 2011 to 2017. Comes with good pedigree. Again, though, now let's just say we hire Aaron Glenn, which isn't finalized yet, but it sounds like it's a deal. James Urban comes in, and you think about that whole experience thing again, and you're like, huh, has anyone here written a playbook before? Right? I mean, what is Stafford going to be out in the huddle drawing plays on his palm before they go and run them? Like, how is that going to work? That's the one thing that causes a little consternation for a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, there you go. All right, James Urban in for an interview. Some folks, I've heard folks say that it was a satisfier for the Rooney Rule. That may be, but I don't think the way they've run this process is what they're after.
Gross and ugly way to look at the world, in my opinion. But
hey, it's. I think in some cases it's honest. I think it's an honest to God truth, and it is what it is. It's just the world we live in today. What I don't think is that's what happened with the Lions with that interview this year. I think the Lions have a process that they're running that's been very, very competent looking. And this, again, I said this in the vlog. You can't come out on the press conference. The worst thing they had in the press conference with Brad Holmes was his lip smacking, right? He was a little bit nervous, right? Got a little going on a lot while I was talking. But other than that, Guy was gold. He had it all, right? And the thing I talk about for those that watch the ball is the crazy eyes from Adam Gase when he got his first interview. He was trying to blink, torture.
We made a small mistake. Urban isn't black. I thought we were talking about Holmes, but
oh. Check that. Are we sure? Holy cow.
I'm looking at a picture of him right now.
Okay, good. No, because I saw someone mention that, and I just made the assumption. Okay, yeah. my bad. So even more so, we didn't hire him for the Rooney role or interview for him.
I've heard the train of thought about Holmes and it just being a diversity hire, and I think that's a gross, like I say.
Yep.
I think that's just a gross way to look at the world.
So my bad. I took somebody else's statement that I read about that being a Rooney Rule thing, and I just assumed that, okay, I hadn't seen this picture, I didn't remember him. I've probably seen him, I just didn't remember it. I just assumed, okay, yep, that's somebody. There people talk about that. Okay, yeah, there you go. Good times. All right, so there you go. He didn't satisfy that, so we have more interviews to go. There. Put out of the pan into the fire. I want to talk really quick about, before I get into the org structure. Unless you had something else you wanted to cover there, Case?
No, we're good.
Senior Bowl. Really quick, cbd.detroitlionspodcast.com. Head on over there. Get yourself some of the best stuff you're going to find for pain, anxiety, or insomnia. Those three things, it is the bomb. Get you to sleep, get you not to have anxiety, and get you rolling. If you get the non-Delta 8 non-chill line, you're going to be able to operate your high-low at work. You're going to be able to drive your car. You're going to be able to have a good time. No problems. It's good. If you're looking for something that people typically associate with that plant, you're going to want to look for the chill line, also known as the Delta 8 line. The first time, if you get the gummies, just take one, please. Don't go thinking 20 minutes later, I don't feel nothing, and take another one. Just get your sense. Get your.
I made that mistake. In college, kids. In college, there's a time and a place to try new things.
Get yourself understood. Get yourself understood before you do it. And great stuff. Legal in all 50 states. All 50 states. It is legal. Great stuff. cbd.detroitlionspodcast.com. Pain, anxiety, and insomnia, and just for a good time, really, the Delta 8 stuff as well. cbd.detroitlionspodcast.com. Use the keyword Lions, the coupon code Lions. You get 55% off of everything. There you go. Yep, Lions Rumble 81. Hell yeah. Delta 8, fly as a pilot. All right. I want to talk about this org structure. There's been a lot of people talking about, Rod Wood, he said he doesn't know anything about football. That's 5 years ago. He's been up in the front office. You learn a thing or two over the course of 5 years of doing something every day at the highest level. That's fine. But Rod Wood is the top dog of this organization. He is in charge. Okay. You have a GM in Brad Holmes who reports to Rod Wood. You have a head coach in Dan Campbell who interestingly reports to Rod Wood instead of the GM. So they both report to Rod Wood. And then you have to have Mike Disner, your football ops, caps, et cetera, that kind of stuff. He reports to Rod Wood. All right. This is something people are like, Rod doesn't know football. How's this going to work? This is something much, much more like an organization, a corporate organization. If you think about it, you've got you have your research and development, you have manufacturing, you have sales, you have your G&A, right, which is your HR and IS and IT and all that stuff, right in the middle. They're kind of in those towers. Okay, so what happens? Well, R&D, that's probably your Brad Holmes role, right? Mm-hmm. Manufacturing, that's probably your Dan Campbell role. G&A, really. That's your Mike Disner role. Okay, those three guys all report to the CEO. The CEO isn't necessarily an expert in all of those areas in any organization. Right? Those top leaders run those businesses themselves and have to work together. And R&D has to be able to come up with a product so that manufacturing can create it, can make it, and so that sales can sell it. They all have to work together. They all have to create their piece of the product cycle so that the company is successful. They have to work together. They have to apply resources, assets, everything else in order for that whole organization to succeed. And often a good CEO will have creative conflict amongst those people and drive them to say, why is this happening? So let's put an example out here, okay? Player X is on the board. Case is on the board. What's he going to do for the Detroit Lions? Well, Holmes, he's going to step up and say, look, here's the talent that Case has. He's a little slow mentally, not a high football IQ, low lung capacity, not really good at the bench. But God darn it, people like him. But God darn it, people like him. Right? No, I just give you a hard time, Case. But he talks about the talent. What do you have in a player? Where's his skill set? Where does he exceed? Where does he excel compared to others? Right? Where is he ranked on the availability scale of who's best or not best to do this role? He's the one that tells you what kind of talent. He's your R&D, right? And then you think about it, Campbell, right? He's like, I don't need Case. I don't need Case. I don't need a guy that people like. You know what I need? I need an immovable object. I need Chris. I need a guy. Oh, wait, I got Tavai. I don't need that. Let me get somebody tall. I need Riz. I need this guy for this position to make my scheme work. This is what we're missing. So he can argue with Holmes about, we'll go back and use Case as the example again. I don't need that, or I do need that. That's perfect for my scheme. And then you have Disner coming in and saying, well, hold on, guys. Case is way too expensive. I mean, here's this other guy, Holmes, you were talking about Sandman, right? And he's almost, you said, as good as Case, but he's half the price, right? What kind of investment can we make here we could get Sandman and we could use all that extra money.
This is the best analogy you've ever made.
Thanks,
this is really good.
We'll get Sandman in and we'll have all this money left to fix the Wi-Fi. And I always pictured Rod Wood yelling out the door while he's got the router restarting. Martha, did you try to turn it off and turn it on again? The Wi-Fi over there at Fort Field. Anyway, so that creative conflict, they're working with and against each other, knowing that they have the same set of guiding principles, the same shared goals, right? They're working together, and you have the best in each of their areas weighing in with the top level of knowledge in each of their areas to give you the best answer for any of those things. The other thing is there's 3 of them. So if you have to take to a vote, you don't need Rod Wood to be the tiebreaker, right? So it is really those 3, and this is what they talk about when they talk about collaboration. This is what they talk about when they talk about putting the organization together in a way where they work together and drive towards a culture. This is exactly what they're putting together here. Nobody wants to show up in that meeting and not have done their homework. No one can take a day off. They have to be the top of their game in those meetings, right? No one gets to screw the organization on their way out. Okay? It all comes to this group of people working together to do what is the best thing for the organization that day. And I guess if it comes down to it, Wood does make the ultimate decision, but he's got all the information from the very, very best at what they do to help him make those decisions. I love this organizational structure. I absolutely love it. And all the people out there crying about Rod Wood doesn't have any football knowledge. Oh my God, he doesn't report to here. You guys don't get it. This is why they're structured this way. This is why. And Spielman is probably Wood's trusted advisor. I would absolutely expect that's his role, much like Wood had for the Fords. Wood now wants somebody just like that. I love this. I absolutely love this.
Well, that was wonderful. And I agree.
And we didn't hire you. Sorry, Case. You're going to play for a different team.
That's all right. I'm going to the Rams. But I think I think especially true, just given the youth and inexperience of the group coming in. If it makes sense if you have a legacy coach or a legacy GM to give them, ubiquitous, omnipresent power. But when you're dealing with a bunch of guys who haven't done this before, trying to give one guy too much power is just gonna that sets you up for a higher degree of failure than if you're putting in fail safes. Yep. There can be issues with. I mean, look at politics, and we're not going to get
please
into
don't.
Politics.
Okay,
we're not, but you know what I mean. Like there's inefficiencies in a democracy just by the nature of the beast.
Mhm.
If there's too many people who want it this way or that way, it can create inefficiencies.
Mhm.
So in a perfect world, you have somebody like a Bill Belichick, but that's just not a reality that most teams would ever be able to function under. Holmes talked about the collaborative effort that the Rams built. He talked about everybody getting a voice and then all trying to row the same direction situation. And if he's able to help install that, even if he isn't, the be all end all, that's great. That's what we want. And then, if he's successful over a long enough period of time in doing that, then continue to give him more and more, leeway and more power. And then that's good for everybody at that point. But until they reach that point, it doesn't make sense to throw all your eggs so heavily in one basket.
And the other thing this tells me, and this is pure speculation, but this is about accountability as well. You can tell when somebody isn't doing their job well. When someone isn't doing their job well. When everybody rolled up through Bob Quinn, Rod, Martha, they couldn't figure out. They didn't get word whether it was an inability to develop, an inability to draft, a combination or what. They got a story, but it was a co-opted story that was kind of probably, the story was like, how can we cover our tail? Oh, it's Quandre Diggs' fault, right? It's Darius Slay's fault. It's something else going on than reality. Now each person has to be accountable for themselves and what they did and what they do every day there. And you're going to very quickly be able to see people who aren't performing and who can't perform. And you're going to be able to find where the problems are and replace them. Not that that's what you want to do, right? But you at least have that visibility where you didn't before. Everything was obfuscated before and had to filter through Bob Quinn. So you got Bob Quinn's spin on everything that came in.
Also, I just realized that I need to call Bill Belichick a benevolent dictator now.
Okay.
Throwing out the history jargon for those of you who big, history people.
All right. I'm going to hit amazon.detroitlionspodcast.com. Anytime you go to Amazon to buy anything, use that, amazon.detroitlionspodcast.com. They give us a kickback. Also, fanatics.detroitlionspodcast.com. It's not just Lions goods. It's every sport, college and pro. Jerseys, hats, you name it. It's all the official licensed real deal. Fanatics.detroitlionspodcast.com. Use that. They support us. Give us a little chunk of the profit on that. And never costs you any more to use either one of those. So we appreciate everyone who does that. All right. I'm going to now tie this together. Okay. Again, this all came up at 6. So some of this is kind of off the cuff. I'm flying by the seat of my pants a little on this. But there's a conversation out there. And we touched on it as we named each of these folks. There's a need to hire an experienced coach. That's what everyone's talk about, right? What do you do with if we don't have an experienced coach? If you have James Urban as your offensive coordinator and Aaron Glenn as your defensive coordinator and Dan Campbell, he's really not coached. He was 5-7 with the Miami and Holmes. He doesn't know. Nobody knows what they're doing. Absolutely, right? That is a concern. But I will tell you, I'm going to argue against experience a moment here, which is I'm just doing this not because I'm going to be contrarian. I'm going to give you a wider field of view to make your own decisions from. Okay, so that's why I'm doing this. Does that investment in the past hurt you with what the Lions are trying to bring here? And here's what I'm talking about. Say we brought in Marvin Lewis. How open is he going to be to a collaborative effort? My man, my guy, Wade Phillips. We talked about him earlier. I love him to death. How collaborative is he really going to be? How good of a fit is he going to be in a group of folks that everything is based on working together and pushing the organization forward and sharing control and sharing the knowledge amongst each other to make those best decisions? I don't feel like that's a place where Wade Phillips or Marvin Lewis is going to thrive. So again, I'm not arguing against experience, but people that have a tree or a way, that may actually really be working against them in what they're looking to do here. They're trying to create, and this is where I saw it earlier. I think it was Lions Rumble that said it. I want to give them credit if it is. I'm sorry if I mess this up. They said, I'm absolutely tired. We tried the Patriot way. Now we're going to do the Saints way. This, for once, looks like the Lions way. They're doing
this is new. It's all new.
This is their way, and I'm going to tie it back now. And in case we'll go for it, you can run all over it after this. There was something that happened at Ford, and it's something that saved Ford after World War II. Hank the Deuce was in charge. Henry Ford II.
We're getting really into history today.
Oh yeah. I love the auto industry. I love it. I absolutely loved my time working in that industry. I would go back if I could. Either way, Hank the Deuce was in charge of Ford, and things weren't going great. And he brought in a set of people. They were known as the Whiz Kids. Kids today may not know who Robert McNamara was. He was a pretty important guy. He wound up in the U.S. government in very important places. But there was a group of, I think it was 10 guys, and they were known as the Whiz Kids. And they pushed the design. They really were the seeds of the 50s and 60s for the success of Ford. They saved the company and changed and changed the way cars were made. And changed the way that manufacturing was done. And they were guys that were, one was like like a statistician, right? They weren't car guys. None of them were car guys, but they absolutely rethought the way to do manufacturing, the way to do design, the way to run a car company, and changed Ford Motor Company. Now, this is really a convenient fit because it's Ford, right? And you got Hank the Deuce and all that. But now here you are with a football team that appears to be following that Whiz Kids model. And I'll tell you, I had a great book. It got stolen. I looked on Amazon to find it. I can't find the original name. There's one called Whiz Kids, but it's crazy expensive. I don't think that was the one. But if anybody finds it, please email me or hit me through the contact form on the website or whatever. It's about the Whiz Kids, and it was one of the best books I've ever read on business and rethinking business and reinventing the way you do things. It's absolutely fabulous. I honestly believe that Sheila is thinking about the experience, the history of the company, and the success of the company, and what they've done to turn the company around historically when things were bad, and boy, were they bad here. And this just kind of absolutely fits right in that mold. It's something completely different, but something we saw almost a century ago. Pretty interesting to me. There you go. How's that? It's a history. You wanted history. I got you history.
I was going to say, everybody tune in to our new podcast, the Detroit Lions History Podcast, where we cover any and all, do the Ottoman Empire next week.
Are we directing a guy named Ottoman? The Otto Graham Empire in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Flounder. It's fun and exciting, but it's super rough and dirty like hockey. It's low margin business, man. Billions and billions to make small millions. All right. With that case, the Senior Bowl is coming. You guys tune in, watch the YouTube channel. I swear, hit the like now if you can. Also subscribe. We're going to be going live a lot next week, and it's going to be often with very little notice. We're going to have film of players. We're going to do breakdowns of players and their practices of the day. We're going to have live interviews with the players. We've got a ton of amazing things coming that you're not going to get from it. Everybody else is going to be covering people like us who are covering the Senior Bowl. They're going to be covering and giving you opinions and thoughts based on stuff like we're giving you with our direct look at what's going on in the Senior Bowl. This is going to be a great year. And without the combine, this is the look you're going to get at these players, guys. So bear with, do all those things, hit those likes, hit those subscribes, get in there, and we will make sure to get you as your humble Lions servants. Well, we're not so humble, but we love doing it. So what the your humble Lions servants will get you all the greatest and latest information we can, including, as I said, we're working hard for that Nico Collins interview, and that's on the list right now. Anything, Case, you want to hit real quick before we go? Tomorrow?
No, I think we've really kind of outdone ourselves today with our.
We really have.
our depth.
Yeah. We did 20 minutes of prep, and now we've gone over the top. Yeah, tell your friends to subscribe too, and thank you, Lions Rumble. Really appreciate it, man. That's nice. Love the subscribe, the subs. Those are very, very important and help us out a lot. Senior Bowl tomorrow. We'll have the Dan Campbell response later in the day, and maybe some other things that break tomorrow is other news. We'll have all that, and we'll probably pop in the weekend and so on. And it's just on. It's just on. We've got a long week ahead, so it'll be good times. There will be well rewarded alcohol in the end. All right, with that, Case, thank you so much, man. As always, it's love it.
Likewise.
All right, remember, we're looking for your involvement. Use the comments in the subreddit to give us your feedback, but also on Patreon. Don't forget about us there. We stopped the whole intros and stuff in the beginning so that we didn't bore you before the stuff started. So now we're telling you about it. Patreon.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. Get access to the most intelligent Lions chat on the internet. No questions about it. You want to know where the real stuff is and where there's a free point out there right now. So it sounds like Dan Campbell wants to run the ball and play good defense to win games, but that's not the way the best teams in the NFL play. Should fans be happier? That's literally a free press title right now. They want to run the ball and have defense. What fools! This is
it's free for a reason.
Yeah, but it's not. They're trying to charge you for that crap now. Head on over patreon.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. Get the real deal with real people. Intelligent. It's okay to disagree. We definitely disagree, but we do it respectfully. Great place. The best on the internet. That's our Slack chat. You get that when you become a Patreon subscriber. Also, follow us on Twitter at DET Lions Podcast. DET Lions Podcast, the best place to see Case
going out on top.
That's right. Give us a call on Skype. I thought it was going to be a bunker thing. Detroit Lions Podcast, all one word, or on the Lions line at 929-33-LIONS, 929-335-4667. And be sure to go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com, subscribe to the podcast so we can, what are we going to do this time? We're going to come in your ears, whatever. Automagically. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Detroit Lions Podcast. Remember, no pants, no toasters, no hot tubs, no problems, baby, because we're your Detroit Lions and Reddit connection. Thank you.